Hi everyone, welcome back to Aux Fiends. We're back here with another episode looking at another album. We have got Mateo, my co-host here. How you doing, Mateo?
Doing good. Definitely excited to talk about this album. How are you doing, Rishabh?
I'm doing good. It's getting warmer here out in California, where I am now. So I think we've already done some nautical albums. We're moving into plants. We're doing Earth and Fire.
We're going on to the ground.
All the natural elements. Yeah, next episode we go underground.
Next one's underground. Whoa, okay. I mean, plants are kind of underground, but
yeah, and then we go to space.
Yeah. Ooh, space. Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to space, and then volcanoes. I don't know what other natural features are there.
I don't know. Rain.
I
don't know. Tornadoes. Is there a tornado album?
We're gonna review if everyone's
hurricanes.
You know, Twister the movie, the official soundtrack or score for Twister the movie. Anyway,
yeah.
We got another nature-based album on our hands today. Why don't you intro us in and let's get started?
Okay, yeah. So if you haven't checked by the title already, the album we are listening to is Mother Earth's Plantasia by Mort Garson. Easiest way I can kind of describe this album is it is plant music. It came out in 1976. I guess the easiest way to kind of tell you guys about this album is I'm just going to read off the wiki really quick. It's just saying, so let me read this. It's Mother Earth's Plantasia is an electronic album by Mort Garson. The music on it was composed specifically for plants to listen to. See, I wasn't just making that up. The album had a very limited distribution upon release, only being available to people who bought a house plant from a store called Mother Earth in Los Angeles, or from those who purchased a Simmons mattress from a Sears outlet, both of which came with the record. As a result, the album failed to attain widespread popularity around the time of its release. However, it has since gained a cult following as an early work of electronic music. Garson uses a Moog synthesizer to compose this album. And that's what this album is. It's like
yes,
all synth, instrumental. I'm interested to see how you feel about this album because I love electronic. I mean, I had vaporwave album before with Echo Jams. This isn't vaporwave, but it's all Moogie and synthesize-y, and it's just I love this album. I have it on vinyl. I don't know. What were your thoughts, Rishabh, before? Like when I told you, because I know you didn't know anything about this album, right?
Yeah, I didn't know anything, and I honestly did not know the history you just told me. I absolutely love that history of the plant thing. I that makes sense to me, and then also that helps connect the Mother Earth part of the album title. But the mattress is just out of left field for me. That's amazing. I feel like Mateo, our podcast was designed to review albums like this. I mean, obviously we had we had Ween, Ocean Man, and Beach Boys, and all these classic people, and then we're going to mattress music.
Mattress music, yeah, I know.
Mattress music.
Mother Earth's and Simmons mattress Plantasia.
Yes, exactly.
Mattress music.
Yeah, no, but my expectations were, when you said electronic, I kind of perked up a little bit, but when you kind of initially, I think on the last episode at the very end, we were talking and you were saying like it's like from the 70s kind of electronic. Yes. To me, I thought this was going to be another Echo Jams, and that was my expectation at the time. Did it really turn out to be like that? I guess you have to keep listening to find out as we continue on in our reviews.
Yeah,
teasing my opinions for as long as I can.
As long as you can. I hope your opinions are good. I feel like I hope at least we kind of agree later on. All I will say too is, let's be real. It's plant music. It came out in 1976. It is very, very 70s. I think that's definitely fair to say, right, Rishabh?
Yeah, I think let's get into the tracks without wasting too much more time. Mateo, go ahead.
I want to say this. This has to do with the tracks. All the tracks kind of have to do. Their names have to do with some weird plant names. So I'm just gonna say it now, unless you're gonna say them all. I'm probably going to mispronounce at least one or two of these different plant titles.
So to our gardener green thumb audience,
we're very sorry.
Yeah, please don't go into the comments and say that's not how it's pronounced. We're trying. We're trying our best.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay,
Mateo.
so let's just jump into it. Yeah.
Track one of mattress
Plantasia.
music. I'm calling it mattress
Okay.
music.
Go ahead, sure, as long as that's a good thing. Plantasia. That's what the first track's called. To me, it's a perfect opening. It sounds like a quintessential, just kind of like plant orchestra. It's not my favorite, but it was definitely high up there. I just love everything about it. I think it was a perfect opener. What
Yeah.
did you think about Plantasia?
Well, Mateo, are you ready to hear this? I think it
Yeah.
was a solid opening to a very good album. There you go.
Whoa!
I know. This is an exciting
Whoa!
moment for the history of Aux
Is this?
Fiends. I think
Whoa! Is this
this
the first?
this hasn't happened since Discovery. And by the way, we chose
I
Discovery as the
know. We
first
both
album
chose it.
because we both chose
Yeah.
that one. So this is a really unique occurrence. Yeah, I
Wow.
thought this was a good opening. Definitely not the best track. I'm going to agree with you there. And
Yeah.
I like
Not the
that
best
you
one.
mentioned orchestra because I feel like the whole album is very orchestral.
Yeah.
And it really is. I mean, I gotta say, like for I think you said Mort Garson. I don't know,
Yeah. Mort Garson.
Mort Garson. I gotta say, like, right, because I mean, you're this pretty indie artist, very indie. Your stuff's going with mattresses. It's the 70s. It was like 1976. Electronic music's not big yet, and the electronic music that is being done, you have to also remember that, like, now when we listen to electronic music, so much of it is produced on the computer. It's literally not just electronic; it's digital, right? But back then, it was all like analog synths and everything, right?
Oh
So
yeah. This was one of the first albums to like actually use the Moog synthesizer
exactly,
and
yeah.
be like influential in that area.
So
Yeah, you're
especially
definitely right.
when you consider that, I think it puts this album into a whole new perspective because you understand the fact that like a lot of the instrumentation is being done really from scratch. And what I liked about the let's not go into the whole album review, but what I really like about even this particular track is that, and certainly with some of the tracks coming up, is that it kind of is pushing into that spacey electronic sound that we
Hmm.
kind of are familiar with today. But what I really liked about it that really surprised me is something that I think which is maybe a little bit missing in today's music is that it had that kind of rooted orchestral kind of classical sound. It sounded kind of like classical music done with a synth. And
Yeah.
that's something that I really liked. Yeah. So I thought this
Yeah.
was a very good like anthem to open the album. I agree.
Thank you, definitely for all those kind words about Plantasia. I couldn't
I
even have
know.
said it better. Yes,
Ooh,
I'm still stunned. We're agreeing this much just on the first track.
I know. I dug this album. I let's be honest. I mean, I think me and you, we both kind of tend to like electronic music. That being
Hmm.
said, I'm not head over heels quite yet. There's some tracks that I'm very excited to talk about. Some not so excited.
Yeah, that's
And
fair.
let's talk about the album as a whole when we get there. So Mateo,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll give you the
All right,
second track
the
too. Go
second
ahead.
track, yeah, Symphony for a Spider Plant. To me, this song felt like a beginning of a journey. Then halfway through, and this is kind of a theme that kind of goes on later on. There's usually it kind of starts out one way and then kind of changes. To me,
Yeah.
this song kind of felt like a bright kind of journey at the beginning, but then kind of more
Yeah.
journey like the abyss, kind of going a little deeper down or midway through. I don't know. It wasn't one
Mm.
of my favorites, but I didn't dislike it. What
Yeah,
were
I
your
agree.
thoughts towards
Yeah,
Symphony for a Spider Plant?
probably one of the more forgettable tracks. I think, honestly, I think the beginning of the album is a little bit on the weaker end, but still decent so far. And I'll say that most of the tracks here, I think what you're referring to as the abyss, which is a very dramatic word, but
Hmm.
I think it's more of that like spacey sound, right? I mean, it's kind of a
Yeah,
little bit more sparse. There's maybe not as much filling the production there.
yeah,
But then there's also these parts that are like very vibrant and warm and like has that classical sound to it.
yeah.
And you can tell, right? Like, yeah,
No, I think for me, I think we are agreeing then. The
I
abyss to
think
me
so.
is like later on I start writing like, oh, it's kind of very spacey.
Right.
I think my mind was just in the nautical kind of mood. I was thinking like Mariana Trench down in the abyss down there, you know. So I'm just
Yeah.
like, okay. To me, it's the
Yeah.
same. The
Yeah.
abyss or the void of space. very spacey.
Yes, I think we have
I think it's the
different
same.
ways of describing the same stuff.
Yeah.
And when I was talking about the classical roots too, I mean, look at the titles of a lot of these, different tracks. You have symphony, concertos, and all of these different classical roots, right? So I really think that when, I keep forgetting his name.
Mort Garson.
Mort Garson was composing this and making this. I think classical music must have been in the background of his studio or within his mind somewhere.
Yeah.
Because it's so much of it is so kind of classical, and I really appreciated that part of all of the tracks. And this one, I know it's titled Symphony. I still think it's a little bit more of a forgettable track, but still good.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah. I guess going to the third track. I'll let you take this one. Babies, Tears, Blues.
Yeah. I said funk sound. I realize now what I was kind of identifying is, as I'm reading the title, more of a blues sound, really.
Yeah, it's blues.
Blues, and it's blues music done through synths and electronic production, which I think is very unique. And honestly, something, there's something about this album I think that's way ahead of its time, where I'm not going to harp too much on, current electronic music, but a lot of it is maybe not quite as inventive and risk-taking as some of the tracks here, where Garson's playing with the different genres and using like electronic production to mimic real instruments and mimic other types of genres of music, which I think is very cool. And I thought this was a very good track, and I really liked the warm sound. I think on the album cover too, it says like warm earth music, and it really feels like that.
Yeah. I guess it's interesting actually that you said you felt this track felt warm. Not that I didn't feel it warm, but I felt a little more the opposite. Like to me, this felt raspy. It was blues. To me, I literally felt like a dark back alleyway, but felt like you're kind of getting up in something, But all the while, you definitely said it right though. This track and this whole album as a whole is just very unique. It's just like it felt like you were getting up to something too, but it wasn't musically distracting. That's what I liked about it. I will say though, towards the end, it did have that mood change from kind of dark throughout and then a little brighter. So if you're kind of talking more about the end of this track, then I understand where you're saying it's maybe a little warmer, a little brighter. But at the beginning, it felt a little not noir. I mean, maybe noir, just kind of like I felt like snapping or something, just kind of like I'm just like doing a little jig or something, just kind of walking down an alleyway.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think for me, I guess I thought the whole thing was kind of had this nostalgic quality, but I agree with you in the sense that the second half of the album definitely cranks up like the brightness of the sound. But and I might have to go back and listen to this and try and determine the mood of the song. But yeah, I kind of like the nostalgic quality of this one too, even though it is more of a blues track. But I think we both kind of picked up on the blues kind of sound of it, which I think was very much the intention too, is to kind of try and mimic that genre. Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Ode to an African Violet, next track, Mateo.
Oh, I mean, come on, this one's tribal to me, but it stayed creative. I will say this probably was the most unassuming song in the album. I don't know. Would you feel that's kind of do you understand what I'm saying, Rishabh? When I say unassuming?
Yeah, maybe. I think this one has more of the spaciness. I think it's not as orchestral.
I mean, if you check all the track length, this is actually the longest track on the album.
Yeah.
Talking over just that. Four minutes and 3 seconds. Kind of like a long hunt. I don't know. I've never been hunting. This is just my assumption about what it'd be like to be on like a hunt or something in like the wilderness. But I feel like this is just like would be going on in the background, just like while you're waiting, just like for the hours and nothing's happening, but like you're still kind of on edge. And then and then even in the song towards the end, it had like the dun 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 dun, and then it, like up front. I can't sing it well, but then it kind of had it in the back with more of the bass, which I on my previous listen throughs of this entire album I had never even noticed, where it had like kind of mimicking the dun dun dun, but then it was like in the back, and you just kind of like still there. I was just kind of mimicking it.
You always pick up more things, I think, when you listen more intentionally, which reminds me, by the way, sort of a late reminder to our listeners to please go back and please listen to the album as we, talk through the tracks here. Because, it's one thing, and I'm sure a lot of people, might enjoy listening to this just for fun. But I think when you listen to the tracks and then you hear us talk about it too, and you can form your opinions alongside us, I think that makes for a more engaging listen of Aux Fiends, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Like, I mean, I own the vinyl, as I said before. I've listened to this album front to back.
Yeah.
Tens, 20s, 30s times. But like, it always is worth it to listen through it and then actually be cognizant of each album. Maybe even take notes and then jump into the podcast where you're actually talking about track by track. Because it's just very easy, even on great albums, it's just very easy to kind of forget what the track is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Next track, concerto for, Philodendron and Pothos. I hope I got that sort of right. It sounded right, honestly.
I would have said maybe Philodendron and Pothos, but
Philo. I don't know. Philo does sound right. I don't know. I thought it was more like philosophy,
I will say this. This is definitely one of the 2, 3-ish ones that I'm like, okay, I don't even know how to really pronounce. That's why I had to have the intro at the beginning. Like, I was thinking of this track.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say something, Rishabh. We talk about it every episode. I don't know if you're gonna agree though. To me, this track was lullaby-esque. Was it the interlude?
I'm gonna disagree with you completely. I think there's a big interlude here somewhere, not here yet. And actually, I'm going to go outright and say this is my favorite track on the album. And I didn't feel like an interlude to me. I felt like a very fully fledged song. And
okay, well, let me say this.
Yeah,
this is also my favorite track on the album.
This is crazy.
I didn't mean interlude in a bad way though. This was like, I don't know. To me, this was a perfect interlude because it kind of goes from low to high. This goes back and forth, but all the while it just keeps balance. To me, this song just felt like discovering something new. That's why it's my favorite. I mean,
yeah.
Why was it your favorite? But then we can go back to why you think this isn't the interlude.
Yeah, for me, the discovery here is that I think this one, amongst all the tracks of the album, really reaches and roots itself. No pun intended. Plants. Get it? Okay.
Yeah.
It really roots itself in the orchestral sound, right? Like this classical sound. And it's titled as a concerto. And it's the one that I really felt like I needed to go back to listen to parts of. And I did. And I feel pretty confident that this is my favorite one. And that's what I was saying, right, Mateo, earlier, is that it's something that I think electronic music has definitely moved away from. Even when, and this is not a harp on Daft Punk, but even when that era started, we were getting electronic music that was more digital, right? Like it's more.
Yeah.
It kind of defined itself in its own way, but I really like in this album how it mimics other genres, and having to mimic like a classical instrumentation isn't just difficult; it's actually very difficult, let alone with like your analog instruments in the 70s. So I think this track really, points to that and that achievement that kind of happened on this album.
No, I actually definitely agree with that like sentiment. I think it's this album as a whole, and you can just see it perfectly in this track where it just feels authentic and, like you said, no pun intended, but I feel like it's like you can feel the roots of electronic music here. And again, not to harp on, because I love electronic music, so not to harp on later or more recent electronic music, but I feel like this is a great base kind of starting point in electronic.
Mateo, would you say, hold on, would you say the seeds have been planted?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I would. The seeds have been
That's good.
planted.
The seeds have been planted for future electronic music. Also, I was gonna say, a lot of the tracks, they sound a lot like something from a Nintendo soundtrack, which was kind of like a Nintendo game. Mateo, I'm sure you know more about this than I do. But
I don't know.
at first, it was kind of a negative thing for me, but I grew to actually kind of appreciate that because think about it, that stuff didn't happen till much later, and here's this mattress music doing it before anyone else does.
Okay, I guess I can agree on the end. I don't know if I feel any Nintendo or video game ish. Maybe kind of the discovery aspect, not the album, but like the feelings of discovery and journey. But
Yeah.
I think that this Mort Garson gets his credit where it's due, where it's like this was a mattress album, plant album. You can only get by buying a mattress or a house plant. So I think it definitely gets the credit where it's due. Where it was super inventive and creative. When let's be real, it didn't have to be.
It really didn't. It really didn't. And the cult following really makes sense too, because, and I'm honestly wondering if there's anyone out there who actually bought the mattress or the houseplant that's hung on to this, and it's like has like a rare release, like original release version of this, and maybe you could sell that for I don't even know what dollar amount.
Well, you know what? Here's the funny thing, because I mentioned I had the vinyl back in 2019. I know we're kind of getting on a tangent. Back in 2019, they did a re-release of this album. Yeah. But actually, I think it was a couple years before 2019. I'd actually first heard of Mort Garson, and I bought it off eBay. And I think I actually own the Mother Earth houseplant version of this vinyl.
That's amazing.
Which I think is funny. So I guess it's not as, let's be real, limited as the Simmons mattress one probably is from Sears. Yeah. But I think it was an original one from the 70s that I had bought off eBay. There's a sticker and stuff on it.
It's kind of amazing to even think that you would go in and buy a mattress and they just hand you like a random album with it. That's just kind of an amazing thought.
No, this almost makes me want to go back to the previous albums we've done and be like, okay, what would you buy to get like Echo Jams? What would you buy to get Melodrama?
Yes. What would
you
buy that's to funny.
Get the Mollusk? Mattresses.
I know it's so random too because it's about plants. So the houseplant part makes sense. Also, Mateo, I was going to ask you, was this offer like valid or exclusive only to the United States, or where was this out of? Like, where was this happening?
LA. This was okay. LA. Yeah, it was. Assuming Wiki is 100% accurate, but it was just basically the store called Mother Earth in Los Angeles, or anyone who purchased a specific mattress, the Simmons mattress, I guess, from the Sears outlet. Both came with the record. But it was only those. I assume it was a Sears outlet specifically only in LA. But so I guess this is a really limited.
Get your music out there any way you can.
Any way you can, even if you have to buy a mattress for it, I guess.
Yeah. Cool. Next track, Mateo, Rhapsody in Green. I'll go ahead and let you get started.
I don't have too much to say about this. I guess Rhapsody in Green feels like falling, if you get what I mean. Kind of just keeps going down. To me, it was very slow at the start, but it picks up. This is where I finally turn and realize, okay, this is kind of spacey. That was like Space Voyage to me. Kind of the notes, but it sparsed out. It felt like the notes were calling if anyone was there. But I will say, to me, Rhapsody in the Green, when it had that kind of mood change from the very slowness to where it picks up, to me, it was too clunky. That's actually why I think this is my least favorite track on the album. Don't get me wrong, I still like it. It's just as hard as it was for Discovery to find a least favorite. For me, at least. But I think it's safe to say this was my least favorite, though. What were your thoughts?
Not my least favorite. I agree that I thought it starts off kind of like that bright sound and then transforms into that spacier sound. To be very honest, I can't remember a lot about this album, which makes me feel like it wasn't something that really sticks out. But it was not my least favorite by a long shot. And I think what you're saying about that sparse sound, I think that was there in this track. And Yeah, I think that's something that Garson was trying out, and maybe it was kind of I don't know a lot about electronic music prior to the 70s, but I know that it was still very much kind of coming up in the 70s and late 70s.
Yeah.
We weren't quite at that I guess level of like definitely not mainstream for sure, and like you said, playing around with the synths and things. So I think that sparse instrumentation is something that he maybe was trying out a little bit more, or maybe was trying to combine that with the classical style he's going for. So I think there are a lot of tracks that reflect that experiment. So I think this was probably one of them.
I agree, but I want to make it clear though. I liked the experimentation, but to me, it was just this track that I felt I could I could feel the difference when he tried to change the mood with the experimentation. It was just too clunky. It was the clunkiness for me.
Okay, yeah.
It just felt like this one could have used a little more work, or could have just stayed in one lane a little more. Just had a smoother transition, and then this would have been a fine track. Really, it's more about the kind of clunkiness I felt that brought me out of it. Because overall, this album kind of just it's just for background. It just keeps me in it. I stay in the music. It's not too distracting.
Yeah. I mean, I think saying that it's only for the background kind of reduces it a little bit.
No, that's not what I mean.
Yeah, I think I know. I think I know what you mean. Yeah,
take me out of it. It doesn't take me out of the film. That's what I mean more.
Right. I think the tracks flow together pretty well overall. Yeah. So I think yeah, I agree with you there. Is that maybe this is one where he's trying to go into that spacier sound, which I think it happens on a lot of these tracks, to varying degrees. But here I remember, I have it written down specifically, so I think I would agree with you there for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna take a stab at the next one.
Take a stab. I don't want to take a stab at the name. Go ahead.
All right, here we go. So here's the thing. I think by title alone, I personally expected this to be the most upbeat track, and I think I was pretty much correct. It's swinging spathiphyllums.
Yeah, I think that's it. Swinging spathiphyllums. I think that's how
that sounds right. That sounds right.
Sure, maybe. I don't know.
We need
any gardeners.
Botanist for
put
this.
Away your green thumbs, and botanists, stay away, please. Put down your shovels. We're sorry if we get it wrong.
Botanist to shovel.
I don't know. I'm no biologist.
Okay. Yeah, but I think this had an upbeat sound to it, kind of groovy. We like using that word, but it also had that. Yeah,
definitely swinging. It was definitely swinging.
It was swinging, but the thing I really like about it is still rooted in that orchestral sound. There were some really emotional orchestral notes here too, which I think is something, again, the most unique part of this, and what kind of makes it different from other electronic music, of its time, certainly, and then even now. And I like this one. It was very close to being my favorite.
Wow, okay. It wasn't my favorite. I was more neutral, but I loved this track though. That's one of the things I wrote in bold. Like, I love the energy that I felt from this, especially coming from Rhapsody in Green to right after this. To me, it was swinging. You had all the energy there. I was just like, I felt like I was like a monkey going through the plants,
Mateo, I think Aux Fiends has to have your analogies now. We got abyss, monkeys. We're gonna have monkeys in the abyss. I don't even know.
Monkeys are in the abyss. They're swimming around. Hey, swinging spathiphyllums. They're definitely swinging and swimming. That's what I'll say.
You gotta imagine this as they say this is music for plants. I think this is music from the plants. Let me know in the comments what you think. For or from? I think this is the plants music.
I think it's from plants, for plants, and humans are just in the background.
We're just listening in. We're just on our Simmons mattresses, trying to listen in.
Yeah, so no other mattress.
Only Simmons.
It's only from Sears.
Yes.
So. All right, I think we should go to the next track.
So the next track is a nice little piece of advice in the title.
Yeah.
Mateo.
You don't have to walk a begonia. How about you? I note that down, write that down. I don't care if you're not even a botanist, write that down. Because you don't have to walk a begonia. You don't have to. Which, I just love this title name. I don't know.
I think Garson was high at this time. and then writing
Maybe.
this
I don't
one.
know, but just like something about a begonia. I don't even know what a begonia is. It just like kind of makes sense though. You don't have to walk it, you know? You gotta walk your dog, but you don't have to walk your begonia.
It also implies that the begonia can walk. It's just that we don't have to walk it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, funny enough, that leads me into what I wrote down, how I feel about this. It feels like an old cartoony walk. Like
I know, I really
love
liked it.
I can imagine like a little cartoon begonia walking itself, and like maybe like a little Mickey Mouse chasing after it, trying to walk it or something, you know? Little monkeys running around in the abyss. Okay, not that, but
yeah,
there was like reminiscing of like an ice cream truck. There was kind of notes that you maybe hear.
Yeah, it was delightful.
Lots of allure to this song. Childhood dreams. That's kind of what it felt like.
It really is. Yeah. It felt so joyful, nostalgic, sweet, simple. Really liked it. I thought it was surprisingly well done, and it didn't feel. It felt like a nostalgic in a way that was done artistically, which I think is something that's about the album. But this one is so. It's such a bright sound that it could get kind of cheesy, but it kind of didn't. I kind of liked it. Yeah, liked it for sure.
Definitely.
Which brings us to our next one. We're going from a bright sound to a mellow mood for Maidenhair. Mateo, I want to hear your thoughts on this one first.
Yeah, this one's definitely darker. To me, it was mysterious. I don't know. Here's one of my analogies. I felt like it was like cowboy music. Does that make any sense? Or like in a
no, not
desert,
really.
Like mysterious. Like
okay.
I felt like I was like on a big outlook, looking around. Like like I guess the one thing actually talking about the music instead of the analogies that I felt when listening to this. To me, there was a lot of kind of dry notes, and then later on, there was some other like all the reverb notes almost felt wet. I think that's kind of where I got my desert cowboy analogy from. It almost feels like a warm, hot day, and maybe it just starts raining on these cowboys. It definitely wasn't one of my favorite tracks. Maybe a little more forgettable, but what were your thoughts?
Yeah, this was probably my least favorite track on the album. Yeah, and I was also going to say this one feels like the interlude to me. It's a little sparse, it's a little repetitive, it's a little bit derivative. It doesn't really fit in with the rest of the album, I feel. It does slow down, considerably from some of the other tracks. It's obviously mellow mood, right? So, but at the same time, I felt like it was the least inventive. I felt like Garson was kind of going for the same sound that we'd heard, but slightly maybe slightly worse. It just didn't feel very impressive to me. The production was a little bit repetitive. So not my favorite for sure. Definitely my least favorite on this one.
That's fair. That's fair to say. I don't know if I get the repetitiveness that you're saying, but maybe I have to do another listen through of this track. Maybe you do too to hear the
maybe
cowboy.
I do too.
Yes. Cowboys definitely aren't too repetitive.
All right, Mateo, I have a question for you before we go to the next track.
Okay.
Do you have a snake plant? Is it savage? Because if so, I have a solution for you.
Oh, you do? Because I do have a snake plant that is savage. Rishabh, please tell me how I can maybe calm it down. Some would say soothe the snake plant.
Soothe? That's a good word. And you know what always soothes me down? I'm not a plant, believe it or not, but if I wanted it to be soothed down, I don't know if that's a phrase, I would listen to some music. I think that's what I would do. Yeah, I would get some
music to soothe the savage snake plant, perhaps.
I wish it was there, and I wonder if that's maybe the name of the last track of this album. Might be.
Maybe.
All right. Music to soothe the savage snake plant. That's a mouthful, first of all, which, I mean, all of these are, but this one really is.
Yeah.
Mateo, what'd you think?
Mysterious.
Track.
Again, last track. You can tell it was slithering. I just want to give points to Mort Garson, where, like, a lot of these tracks, you actually understand why they're titled the way they are. And just, like, I know nothing about plants, but I don't know if that was easy or a hard thing, or if, it was like chicken or the egg, which came first. Did he have the plant and then he decided to write the music about it? Like, did he have a savage snake plant that needed to be soothed? And he's like, okay, I need to make music to calm it down. Or was it the other way around? Did he have the track and he was just listening to it, and then all the snake plants started soothing down,
Yes.
But because this track was absolutely slithery. It was snaky. I thought there was great synth creativeness.
I don't think the plant is actually, it has anything to do with the snake, but okay.
It no, I
For
think,
you
I
it
think that's
is.
what it's called. It's a snake plant. I think that's what it's called.
We're gonna have to Google this.
It is. I'm not gonna be able to pronounce it, but it's a snake plant. Scientific name is a Draconea trifasciata.
Great.
I don't know. It's some plant from the Congo, I think.
Okay.
Anyways, this is not ox plants.
This is the botany episode right here.
Definitely. But let me get back to what I was saying. Great synth creativeness. I wonder how you're gonna feel about this analogy, because this is definitely how I felt listening to this song. It feels like you're kind of like a villain in a story, but you turn good and you see the errors of your way. This song is just a journey through that mind. It was a perfect journey. I thought this was maybe not the best end track, but it felt like a great end, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, it feels conclusive. I will say, to me, if I'm going to really wrap my thoughts into one sentence, it was probably, for me, the clunkiest song on here. Not the worst track, but a bit clunky, a little bit all over the place. But it was a good bookend. It wasn't the worst bookend I could imagine. Also, this is already a pretty offbeat album, where at this point, this track, even with its flaws, I since it was sort of concluding the album, I felt like it was a decent bookend. Yeah. I don't know if I feel every single analogy you're giving me right now, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
That's
Anything's
good enough.
possible.
That's good enough for me. Anything's possible. Monkeys in the Abyss, and villains turning good.
Yes.
I don't know
Cowboys.
next. Cowboys getting rained on. Who knows?
We don't know.
Hey, this is the Earth album, so
Mother Earth. All right, which brings us to the end of our album. So, Mateo, Mattress Music, what's your review? And what's your rating?
I'll save my rating. I feel like you get anyone be able to take a good guess what my rating is, but also save it for the end. Let me go through. Let me go through my notes. I'm absolutely in love with Mort Garson and the way he uses the Moog synthesizer. Just I just love this album so much. And I usually I'm not even an audio purist, but if you have a record player and this vinyl, please listen to it. It just sounds so good. And I don't say this often. This is absolutely, I think, worth listening to all the way through as an album. I think it holds up very, very well compared to other early electronic 70s music. You agree?
I agree that it's very much an album you have to listen through all the way down, for sure.
Yes. Not to say that it single-wise it doesn't hold up. I just know I personally got the most use out of it. It's just like while reading, having in the background. This is not to deter it from the album at all. It's just not distracting. It's super soothing. It's just to me, it's creative, smart. It was a beautiful album. Yeah. To me, like at the beginning, I said it was a music for plants, but I think it's for music for humans too. And with that, I give it out of 10 a 9. Rob, what do you think? What do you even think about that? And what do you think about the album?
Yeah, I agree.
To know your thoughts.
I agree that this is one I would suggest to listen all the way through. I think single wise, I mean you know what mine and Mateo's favorite tracks were, so those are obvious recommendations. But for sure, listen to the all the way through. It's very short, half an hour, and it can kind of like I would say I would obviously recommend listening to this as intentionally as possible. But at the same time, if you are on a time crunch, this is one you can definitely also have on in the background if need be.
Yeah.
And kind of have it be there as atmosphere. But Mateo, I'm enthusiastic about the album. I was impressed by Mort Garson and what he did here. I won't say I'm in love with it, maybe as much as you are. I think take your rating a couple notches down. But at the same time,
not too many notches.
I was very pleasantly surprised. I think
that's good.
It's very impressive what he did in that time with probably the very limited resources he had. I liked how it was electronic instrumentation drawing from different genres. And I agree, it was smart and it was inventive and it was occasionally really, really just delightful to listen to. I don't know if I would use the word beautiful. That's very That's a big
I thought it
word.
was. I thought it
Big
definitely
word.
was.
Big word. Bright. Nice to listen
Bright,
to.
beautiful,
Delightful. Yes. I think
bold.
we got
A lot
some
of
tears
B's.
with those words. But
Hmm.
I'm gonna go something. I think Mateo, maybe you'll think it's a little too low, but I think it's exactly where it needs to be. I'm gonna go with 7 out of 10.
Too
Hey,
low, yes,
that's
but better
not
than
bad.
I was expecting. Yeah, I'll say this. Yeah, since we're going out of 10, a 5 out of 10 is like either take it or leave it. 6 is like there's like one or two good things about it. 7, yeah, listen through. That means it's good.
Hey,
I'll take a
that's
7
that's
from
your
you.
scale, Mateo. That's your
I'll take a
scale.
7
See,
from you.
for me, this is a 7 out of 10, which I think I'm very much positive on this. I would highly suggest checking this one out.
Yeah.
And one I would also say I want to say two things real quick. First is that I think if you're really just kind of getting started into electronic music, this is one I would recommend. What do you think, Mateo? I mean, it really feels like that the
Definitely.
seeds are planted, right?
The seeds are planted. I mean, come on, Rashad. This was my pick. Absolutely. Especially if you
Yeah.
kind of want like electronic music, like history lesson almost. You really see the
Yeah.
seeds and the roots, all puns
Yes.
intended, for this album and electronic genre kind of as a whole. Super 70s, super planty. I think it's just really good, just all around. For what
Yeah.
Morgan Garson had, just like
Yes.
it went way more right than wrong. It went way more right.
For sure.
It shouldn't have done what it had did for being just a Simmons mattress album.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, I agree with
Yeah,
that. And second thing I wanted to say is that Mateo, I'm sure you're already aware, maybe you're not, I'm not sure, is that there is actual scientific evidence that plants do respond to music. So while you're
yeah,
listening, maybe take your, I guess, philodendrons out,
yeah.
your
Get those
begonias and
spider
spathiphyllums,
plants and pothos and snake plants.
and
Gotta food them
see
down.
that experiment of whether they grow better.
Yeah, I think they will.
So
I think they will. And I think this is good to point out too. That just like other than Discovery by Daft Punk, this has
yeah,
to be our highest rated album, right? That we
I
both
think
agree
it
on.
is. I
It
think
has
it
to.
is.
9 and then a 7. Come on.
Yeah, I think if we need to go back and check on that. I'm almost certain it is. I'm a little bit concerned about melodrama just because my rating was very high. Yours was like pretty low, but not like maybe not low enough. But I'm pretty sure this would be the highest one. I agree with that. It's
I
certainly
think
the
this
one that,
definitely was.
yeah. I mean, excluding the numbers game, it's definitely the one where we've both been pretty positive on it for sure.
Yeah.
Which leads me into my album pick,
Oh,
Mateo.
I'm scared. I'm scared, dude. Just tell me now. Are you going mean? Are you going nice? What are you doing?
I'll be very honest, Mateo. Start cowering. I'll just say
Cowering.
that.
No. I picked such a good album. You can't
Yeah,
do
but
me
you
wrong.
don't know what I would think. Maybe I'll be wrong. I doubt it though.
Maybe.
Um, yeah. So this is a maybe slightly, probably very unknown album to most of our listeners. Maybe even less well known than Plantasia. That's because it's not from the States. It's
Oh,
what
okay.
you would say is world music, right? And I'm excited for you to listen to this, Mateo. I'm hoping you keep an open mind. I'm hoping
Okay.
you see the things that I see, hopefully. And if
Okay.
not, otherwise, we'll have a great episode of Fiending anyway. The album is Saloon Mania by Maria Chav. Okay, I'm going to really try not to butcher this. Maria Czechoslovakia. I know I butchered that, but Mateo, I will send you the full name, and hopefully
Yes.
most of our listeners will be able to find it. I'll try and hopefully when the
Uh,
episode comes out, they'll be clear enough to find this. Yes.
Rishabh, my mouth has been open agape since I don't even know what you said, dude. I don't even know what country is this from? What
This
was
is
her
from
name? Maria? Ukraine?
Maria. Yeah, this is from Ukraine. This is Maria Tchaikovskaya. Maria Tchaikovskaya, which I think is more correctly pronounced Maria Tchaikovska, which is actually a little bit more easier to pronounce. Look, I'm not going to say too much about this because I know we're going to be talking about it. I'm not going to try and prime you too much. I will say it's a recent album, so
Okay.
that should tell you a little
I know
information.
literally nothing about this.
I know you don't. I don't think anyone does. So I'm excited.
Can you at least give me the genre, just so?
Well,
That cheating.
look,
We have to wait for the next episode.
let's just say this. Mateo, what did you think of Melodrama?
I didn't really care for it. I don't
Yeah,
think
I
I
know.
liked it. Maybe that was
I
one of
would.
the better ones of your choices, but no, I think I liked the
Hold
Beach
on,
Boys
hold
album
on.
more than that.
I'll say this is like a more boiled down version of that. It's definitely not as instrument heavy, which I know is more of your thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also it's instrument heavy in surprising places. I will say that. I think you'll be surprised at certain things. I don't think you're gonna like it overall. That's my guess. But I think you'll be surprised at some places. That's all I can say.
Okay.
It should be interesting. It'll be fun.
Oh, all right. I guess I really have nothing to say.
We'll find out if we have another Plantasia on our hands, though I doubt it. But
Rishabh, I doubt it too. I am a fan of non-United States music,
and
foreign
non-English
music,
music too, right? Yeah.
yes, non-English music, but I don't know. I mean, I literally have nothing to say. I don't even know anything about this album. But
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
will all have to wait
to find out. Yes.
Find out.
So that was Plant Fiends or Aux Plants or whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And we had that was the special botany episode. I think we probably all learned a lot of. That's like the most I've talked about plants ever, probably in a single day.
Same here, honestly.
Not a gardener, so thanks for
this is the
joining me, Mateo.
this is the most I've talked about mattresses too.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
For a plant album. Anyways, thank you, Rishabh, as well, and thank you guys all.
Thank you, Craig.
Kids, for listening. Thank you so much, Craig. Don't know what I'd do without you. I think the perfect way to end this is, Rishabh, did you know you don't have to walk a begonia?
I learned that very recently. But yes, now I know. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thanks. Goodbye.